Welcome to the Up in Your Family Business podcast, where we dive into the heart of family business with intimate interviews, expert insights, inspirational stories, valuable resources, and practical tips to help grow your family business.
I'm your host, Todd Reimer, co-owner of Element 212, the marketing agency for family businesses, and I appreciate you tuning in. Today I'm joined by Bob Paden, a business broker and advisor, and owner of Bob Paden Group, and a member of Advanced Business Brokers team, and a licensed value builder professional. Bob, welcome to Up in Your Family Business.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you're here. And I'm really glad you're here to discuss this important topic called succession planning. I think a lot of owners believe they have a succession plan because they have an idea in their head of what's going to happen, supposed to happen, should happen, things like that. But when real people and family dynamics and real business realities enter the picture, that's often where things become much more complicated and complex. Yes, we're dealing with people here. It's going to get a little messy.
Yep.
And Bob, because you work with owners, both in building that value and ultimately transitioning or selling the business, which is, by the way, rare. Most do one or the other.
That is correct. We can talk about that.
You get a front row seat to how this actually plays out.
Yep.
And that's where the fun's going to be today.
Awesome.
So I'd like to begin, if it's okay with you, with the human and personal side of all this.
Love it.
Okay. All right. So Bob, what happens when expectations don't really match reality, especially within a family business?
You do know that's a loaded question, right?
It is a loaded
It's
question.
A loaded
I thought I hit you hard right from the beginning.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Because I think later we had talked about in prep, right, that family businesses versus just a privately owned business that doesn't have a family associated with it is a much more complex entity. Emotional, right?
Right.
And I would have told you 10 years ago I wouldn't have paid that much attention to it. But if you interview and talk to enough owners that are family, have family integrated into their business, it's a whole different level of complex. It really is. So, I call them entanglements. Every business has entanglements.
Entanglements, I like that word.
Your business has, my business has entanglements, and I'm just one person. So now if you layer a family on top of that, especially if they're in the business every day, as an example, those entanglements multiply, and they're usually exponential, including emotional, right? So the emotional part, and then back to the expectations, both of those let's just assume two family members for simplicity. Okay. Two family members.
And that could be a husband and wife, father,
son, mother, daughter,
yeah.
Whatever it is, both of those parties have expectations, probably unsaid, right? Let's say the owner, let's just pick the owner as an example. Let's say it's mom. Mom's the owner of the business. The daughter's in the business, working, at management level as an example. Both of those people have certain expectations in their mind of what might occur in the future. And that's where the challenge starts coming into play. It's in their minds. Typically, they have never had what I would call the hard conversations about what happens in the future for both parties and what their expectations are of that. Simple example is the child may assume that the parent will just transfer or give the business to them when they pass or retire. Well, that's a problem, because typically that owner needs a payout of some sort to fund their retirement, because most, probably 80-90% of business owners are banking on selling that business for their retirement.
And you're saying the second generation might not think they're going to sell it to them.
That's correct.
They're just going to baton it to them.
Just baton it to them. And that typically isn't true, right? It happens.
Do you have any idea on percentage? That might be hard data to know.
Yeah, it'd be hard data to know.
How about your professional experience with the clients you work with?
That the child has an expectation of batoning?
No, well, yes,
okay.
Yes.
I would say that's high.
Okay.
And then on the owner side, it's low, and that's where the challenge comes.
Okay.
And then even the structure or how it will happen. And then, that's assuming one child. If you now have two who may or may not be
in the business. Oh, wow.
Now this is where succession planning comes into play. And it's, the owner making the assumption that I'm even at best case going to sell the business to one child what do you do with the other child?
Even if that child isn't part of the business, there's still an
Absolutely.
expectation.
Sure. Or
I'm an heir, if you will.
I'm an heir, or I'm not in the business, and do they prefer that child? And it's where the emotion comes in.
It's quite a dynamic.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got one live one now that it's kind of in that situation, and the only way to overcome it is to sit down with that family and mediate. And you're mediating a future event that hasn't occurred yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's what you're trying to make sure that the expectations of both parties are laid on the table, so that the child or the father or the mother or whoever knows exactly, so they know what they're dealing with. And there's a ton of data and a ton of research and other practices, and I'll use like Ron Blue Company as an example. It's from a faith-based standpoint, but it applies to any family business. Is you are actually better off probably not having your kids take over the business if there's multiple children, because it creates so much strife after, yeah. Especially if there's an event like death or sickness or something like that. If it's truly planned and everybody's on the same table, okay, but there's still, how would you feel, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of until you literally lay that out and lay that plan out. That's why succession planning is so important. And that plays into the second lever, which I'll call it. Everybody thinks they can just plan it and it's going to happen sometime in the future.
Right.
Until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
A spouse gets sick, you die, which happens all the time. There's actually a business in Brownsburg right now that's going through financial difficulties, family business, etc. I'm kind of watching it. They're not my client, but it usually doesn't go well. Because all the emotion, there's immediate stress, financially there's a problem, right? And then eventually you will get to a discussion with the children. Let's assume that the children want to be involved in the business, as an example. Now the question is, can they withstand the financial load that's going to be placed upon them versus the parent? The parent, and the example we use is the parent that started the business, as an example, made $100,000 bets, $500,000 bet, $250,000 bet. Now the child may get to make a $5 million bet, right? And this is what creates that mismatch. And as an example, I had one father, son works in the business. I met with him privately, separately, trying to work out initial expectations. But from the child, the simple question I ask is, are you prepared to leverage your house, take a loan, SBA loan for $8 million and pay, $75,000 a month for the next 10 years?
Wow.
And until you have that conversation with your spouse, more than likely, the child probably has a spouse and a family and kids, which they do. And he came back and went, oh boy, it sounds good. I want to own the business. But the reality is, can you actually physically do it, even be approved for it? Right? There's a lot of assumptions, right? Expectations. And that's why it's a cauldron. So,
okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's a lot. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And do you think, so two things I want to ask. Do you think just I know we talked about generations. Do you think just the generation gap plays a big part in that handoff as well?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's kind of 2 or 3 types of children of an owner.
Yeah.
The spoiled brat.
Oh, okay.
Right? That they're there because they can be and they get paid, and everybody knows that that's the situation.
And they may not have gotten a job anywhere else.
Never, right? May have all kinds of issues. I mean,
this was their nest egg. They just assumed that they're going to do this the rest of their lives.
Those are the ones that make the news, right?
Yeah, sure.
But then there's the others that actually they're doing really good work.
Lifetime television and stuff like that.
Correct. HGTV or whatever.
Yeah.
It makes good TV. Yeah. But then there's the other group, which is they're all doing good work, right? Solid people. You would hire them off the street. Doesn't they're just good people, and they just happen to be the child of an owner. That doesn't take away the emotional stress that comes with all that and all the complications and entanglements. So it's just a matter of, but you're correct. I think we talked about it a little bit. I think the stats are, is it 30, 12, 3 or something like that? It's like,
30, 12, 3. That's right.
Yeah.
The 30,
I
12,
did pretty
3.
good. Yeah.
Is that the Bob Paden rule, or is that a real rule?
No, that's look it on the internet, right? But basically 30% transition to the second generation. 30%.
Only 30. I thought
only
it was
30. No.
Before I got into the family business space, I just assumed it was much higher than that.
Right. You would.
Yeah.
And the one statistic I tried to look up, and I don't know if there's really data about it, is, okay, the 30% transfer, let's say, the question is, do they succeed?
Oh, wow.
And notionally, it's not good, right? So I'd love to find the data to back it up.
Yeah, that's like it's a stat kind of in that, like, so 30% take it, but how many of that 30%
continue to grow the business?
Can continue to grow the business.
Right.
And then if you mentioned that only 12% make it, it was 30%,
Yep.
only 12 make it to the third.
Correct.
And again, is that because people don't want it, or is that because of the failure of it?
No, well, it's probably both.
Both.
That's where the stats are a little, statisticians can make up anything. But I mean, the bottom line is it's a dwindling success rate, right, of transition. I've got a second generation client right now. There is no third. And that's typically the kids. Yeah. And sometimes it is literally the kids watching the parent go through the process of owning a business and say, I don't want anything to do with it. Right? Just for 1,000 reasons. They may see him go through COVID and say, I'm not doing that. Right?
Or see how much work it is, or how stressful it is.
Correct. They're never home, or they work 27 hours a day. They never make my ball games. Yada yada. Right? All those kind of things. So, yeah.
I want to get back to the emotional.
Yep.
So we're still in the emotional component.
Sure.
So how do you help the owners navigate that emotional side?
Literally, if we're in what we call value builder mode, which is what we'll talk about later, right?
Okay.
But when we're in that planning mode, just what I talked about, I get them to agree, methodology-wise, we are going to sit down and decide, one, what your options are, so the owner knows what their options actually are. And there's more than one way to sell a business and transition a business, and everybody just thinks in their head that somebody shows up with a check and it doesn't work that way, right? So especially with a family business, but so typically sit down and get the owner to agree that we're going to go through a process of discussing the options with them, what their preferences are, what their goals are, and then do the exact same thing with the children separately. And sometimes you find out some interesting things, right? And the one owner I've talked about as an example, he made it clear, I want to know whether this son wants the business or not. He will never tell me, right? He just knows, right? That the son.
Not when they're in the same room.
It's not a conflict thing. It's just he knows his son will not share with him privately, or
So when he asked him, he just doesn't answer, or I'm thinking about it, or I'm not sure.
Correct.
Okay.
So he's not sure what's happening behind the scenes, right? Because they're having the conversation at work. They may have dinner on the weekend or whatever, but it never finishes.
But and he's thinking to himself, I know he's not sure. I know he's thinking about it, but I'm sure he's going to do it.
Correct. And that's the assumption and expectation.
And
it may not be correct.
Yeah. And is the child afraid of hurting
their feelings?
Letting them down.
Why would you not want my business?
Right.
You've worked in it for
I put you through college with that money. I raised you.
Emotion.
Yeah.
It's all emotion.
One of the things that you shared with me when we were talking about this beforehand, you mentioned educate. You may have mentioned educate again.
Yeah, again, maybe.
So tell me where the education component comes in.
Well, I mean, I'll use just options of selling, right? It's just if there is a there will be a transaction. And, statistic, 100% of owners
there's going to be something.
100% of owners exit. So if 100% exit, the question is, how do you want to exit?
Yep.
And that's where we start.
Okay.
Right. So then that begs the question of how.
So you're sharing options that people didn't even fathom thinking about.
Nope.
I'm not going to sell to somebody else.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then when you kind of work through that, then it becomes, there is an option, and I haven't really thought about that option.
They never thought about selling to anyone other than a family member.
And we'll get into legacy and later, right, in the discussion, but
sure.
It is a legacy issue. Typically, a business, 10 million and under in revenue, family owned, there's a legacy component in there somewhere, right? Especially if it's a second generation. Well, the problem, back to the statistics, if the third doesn't want it, it doesn't matter how much the owner wants the legacy to occur. They just
Can't
don't want it. You can't control it. And they even, then you get to the third party sale, and that's a whole different issue.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. So, but that's, what we do, and what I do is literally work with the owner and whoever they want to be involved in that discussion, but we're going to have that discussion because there's no way to set a succession plan in place, whether internal or external, without knowing the answer to those questions.
As I'm listening to you, just in the early stages of our conversation, some of the things that are going through my mind is I know you build value for a business and you help with exit planning. Mm-hmm. But as I'm listening to you, I'm like,
it's therapy.
Yeah. I was going to say, Bob, I'm thinking Bob's a psychologist.
Yeah.
He's a coach. Yeah. There's a little governance in there.
Yes.
That's nuts.
It is.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, that's why I love it. So,
really? You do? So you love it?
Oh, I do. What's
your favorite part of it?
The puzzle. It's a puzzle. Yeah, and it's a puzzle that's complex, right?
So you enjoy the journey. Mm-hmm. You enjoy starting from point A and getting to point B.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing all the dynamics, all the conversations.
And every client is different. That's what I like about it. It's not the same rote thing.
It might be the same scenario, but it's every
totally
situation is totally
different. You could
different.
have two identical businesses, and let's say one child or one owner is different.
Yeah.
It'll be a totally different path.
That's awesome.
Right? So
I'm gonna start calling you Dr. Bob.
Yeah, I've been called a business therapist before.
Oh man,
by clients.
That's just coming off. I'm like, oh my gosh. So you need to go get your master's or doctorate.
I'm Dr. Fraser Crane. I'm here to help.
There you I do want to talk. You kind of mentioned this a little bit, and I believe you have an example of an HVAC client. But talking about the people not wanting to take over. There's another dynamic. Mm-hmm. What if they're not ready to take over?
That's correct. Yes.
So they may want it. They might say, "Mom, Dad, I want the business."
Yes.
But God forbid, what if they're not capable or ready? What do you do?
And that's part of that honest conversation with the owner. Mm-hmm. And that this is where, in general, the theme I would tell an owner to think about is I want you to think about your children that work in the business, not as your children. They're employees. Mm. Now, they may be partial owners. That's a whole different animal. But probably they're just employees, right, for the most part. But you really, as an owner, have to, in terms of succession planning, think about them as an employee. And would you make the same decision that you're about to make, whatever it may be, promotions, pay, all those kind of things. Objectively, mm-hmm. as an employee. Because if you don't, you're creating, a culture problem, which you've worked in and seen businesses where the child is not up to snuff.
And everyone knows it.
Yep.
Everybody knows it.
And so that creates a whole dynamic. So now imagine that child who isn't quite up to snuff now becomes the owner of the business, and what happens after.
Right. What's their preparedness? What's
correct.
Their leadership?
Correct. So
are they a visionary?
Correct.
Yeah.
And some of them may be great tacticians,
mm-hmm.
right? Doers, but they may not have any idea of the whole business, financial, legal, everything. And that's where the gaps. And so you have to know those gaps. And so we do that part of the process. We recommend they do this process of assessing their entire staff, mm-hmm. floor all the way up.
Wow.
Right? And it was one of the things I hated in the corporate world, to be honest, but it was probably one of the most useful.
Have you seen it then? Have you experienced it in your own profession where a child was not ready and the owner had to tell them they weren't ready?
Oh, that's a good question. I wasn't prepared for that one. But, not right off the bat.
Okay.
But definitely in the corporate world where someone wants a promotion
mm-hmm.
and you just can't give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, it's emotional, right? It's like, it's awful.
So you have options there. Either you don't, depends on the timing of it, right? You may not be able to sell it to them.
Correct.
Or you may have to then have certain requirements met, and the owner may have to stay on a little bit longer until the child's ready.
Correct.
But you got to be honest about that. You got to be honest. Otherwise, so when you think about, because legacy is the most important thing for a family business owner, right? And everyone defines legacy a little bit different.
Yes.
But if you don't hand that off your legacy will be destroyed.
That's correct.
So fast.
No matter what you want to have happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that new son or daughter who takes over destroys value through culture, through being a snot nose, whatever you want, or just not, they have blind spots and don't address those mm-hmm. blind spots, then that's probably why the statistics are what the statistics are. they never make it past the next generation.
The term you use that I really like, because I like using same letters, but you used potential versus performance.
Yes.
So you have the potential for.
That's the matrix. And it sounds really simple, but when you lay names on a board in private, right, or with your leadership team, and then you start including your children in that, it gets personal, right? So,
are you working with that? Are you working with the HVAC client right now, or is that a previous client?
That's previous.
Okay.
At the moment.
So, what was the outcome of that?
Still in hold mode.
Still in hold.
Yeah.
Because they were not ready.
They were not ready, and there's other things, entanglements that have to be dealt with.
Entanglements.
That's correct.
I love the word. I love how
it is. It's kind of a catch-all, but it's true though. I mean, some are financial, some are legal, some are property, some are children. Spouses get sick, children get sick. There's just all these entanglements, and that's what you got to kind of sort through.
Okay. Anything more you want to share on that subject?
That's good.
Okay. Let's move into what happens when they can't sell or pass the baton.
Yeah.
So, what options? And I don't know if it's common sense or not, but I'd like to hear from you.
Sure.
So let's just say they don't have a child, or the child doesn't want it, or the child's not ready.
Sure.
What options do they have?
Well, then we start talking obviously to what we would call just a third party, right? An independent party buying your business. The question becomes is what is that independent party? Depending on the size of the business, its profitability, its desirability, which we can talk about as well. You have everything from just another person who wants to buy a business, non-owner. Right?
Not a part of the company at all.
Not a part of the company at all. That's kind of one. Great point. Internal, right? That's part of the succession plan. Why you want to assess your entire staff, because you may have someone in the business.
So you recommend looking first internally?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of times it could be their general manager.
Yep.
It could be that supervisor that's really moving up and just doing well, and you kind of pick them out. The question is, are they ready and what time frame? Right, so it's back to time.
It's like you still can't get away from the whole process.
You can't, and that's why it's so important. So you end up. It's a circle. It's a back and circle. 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. But let's say make the assumption that really maybe and this is pretty common in a smaller, under let's say 5 million under. There's just not a management structure quite. It's not quite firm.
Right.
So let's just assume there's not someone internally that's really could go to the bank tomorrow and you feel like they won't screw up, right?
And again, we're talking about 2 different scenarios. When there was no one to begin with to pass it off to.
Correct.
But again, if you think you're going to be giving it to your son or daughter,
yes,
and you never thought about giving it to someone internally, that's interesting.
That's correct, which creates another family dynamic.
And then that creates another dynamic within the company. Yeah. Who is that person? Correct. Does your team believe that's the right person?
Now, I won't use names, and they're not a client, but I tried. It was a sizable business, probably 20, 30 million, right? And it's father and 2 sons and a brother, all working. Father, main owner, minority owner, brother, and then the 2 sons worked in the business.
Wow.
Long story short, after they started talking about succession, actually laid things on the table, which was good. I was glad they did that. 2 sons decided we don't see a future here. We're gone.
Oh wow!
Right, and it kind of rocked the business.
And that was the 3rd generation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's just one of those, and that's where.
The father must have been like, oh.
Well, man. Sure. It's like, would it be quote unquote disappointing? But when they started to talk about the reality of making that transition, how decisions get made, who makes decisions, they kind of figured out they don't want to be fighting every day, right? And so it's just a matter. This is where. It depends on the amount of money and things like that that's involved too, right? 10 million is a little different than 2. 100,000 or 500,000 is a little different than $1 million.
Yeah.
But 20 million, whole different animal.
Yeah, some people might be like, I don't think I can handle that.
Well, and a lot of people can't financially, and that's one of those barriers
That's another thing. You got to do back to the finance. You have to be able to do it.
And when you start getting up in that 20 plus, now you got really complex financial things.
And then growing the business 50 years ago versus growing the business today, we're talking about 2 different worlds.
That is correct. So
2 different worlds.
So what was your original question?
I just asked. We were talking about the HVAC, or I'm sorry, we were talking about what are the options?
Oh yeah. So let's say you're going to look at internal. Let's make the assumption that's not an option. So then it's outside.
Yeah.
Right.
And is that an individual?
It could be. It could be a single person.
Could
right?
be a private equity group.
It could be a private equity. That's kind of what I would call the extreme. Yeah, a lot of. It's interesting. We'll talk about private equity here in a second. It could be just what we call a strategic buyer. Already have a business, but they want to buy your business for a strategic reason, right? I want to add on a service. So I'm HVAC, but I want to buy an electrical contracting business because the two, are adjacent. It would make sense. I've talked to a couple builders. They would love to buy electrical contractor business because they can't get enough of them. So I'll pull it inside so I don't have to fight, right, with a third party.
That's where the broker comes in.
And that's where we'll get to what the advantage of using a broker is, right? So, and we'll skip to the bottom line for that is it's fraught with peril to do it yourself, right? It just is.
But the more I'm listening to you, Bob, the more it just seems like, you should do both.
Yeah,
you should be doing both.
Absolutely.
But that's rare, right?
You do both in terms of
the growing the business and then being the broker. So you're in there, you're helping with the whole transition, and you're helping them try to find the buyer.
That's correct. Oh, yes, yes, that's correct.
It's a lot.
That's why, my tagline is I'm a different kind of broker, and it's because I do enjoy and love and think it's important that you plan what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, statistically, that doesn't always happen, right? An owner literally wakes up this morning, for whatever reason, and says, it's time to go. Taxes are done. My spouse literally rolled over and said, are you done yet? There's emotional stuff with an owner that honestly some of us just can't figure out sometimes, right? But they will just make a decision. It's like, it's time to go now. Mm-hmm. And, that could just be Florida was calling and, whatever.
Wow. Could be that quick.
And so that's where the brokerage comes in. And, we'll talk about ABB. ABB is strictly tactical brokerage. Yeah. It's like they've made the decision already. And so I get to play in both those worlds.
I just think that's great, though, to have one person throughout the whole process. I would think would be comforting because this is so complex, complicated, and emotional.
Correct.
Having to walk this with multiple entities would be tough.
And run the business at the same time. And this is one of the reasons sales don't occur in the end. Is because the business begins to decline because the owner is spending their time doing things that aren't helping the business. What we do, marketing the business, trying to find the right buyer, vetting potential buyers, whoever that is. If they're doing that themselves, they're taking their eye off the ball of the business. Mm-hmm. And we see that decline. We've had a couple examples within ABB recently that we've talked about as a team. That's literally, it's the owner getting consumed with this process because it will consume a lot of time.
Yeah, so you got to have that time.
You have to have
the energy and the attention.
That's correct. And
the stamina.
And the first one they will typically, when they get in that mode, is they'll focus on the sale, not the business. And so therefore the business starts to dip. And as a broker, if we put that business for sale and you see a dip, that's a problem.
You're juggling a lot of balls going.
It is.
There's a lot. You're juggling a lot.
We want to take as much of that off of them as possible.
It's crazy.
So, yeah.
That's crazy. I was just thinking a few minutes ago, have you seen Jury Duty Presents the Company Retreat?
Uh-uh.
Okay. You got it. Okay. I can't remember if it's on Prime. Might be on Prime. It's called Company Retreat. So do you remember Jury Duty? Did you see Jury Duty?
I think
when they had a fake it was a show.
Oh, it was a show. Yes.
The fake juror.
Yes.
He didn't know it.
He didn't know.
Okay.
Oh, that was a great one. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to. Well, yeah. They did a new one. Jury Duty Presents. You got to watch it.
Okay.
As a succession planner, you're going to love it. It's actually a show built around a father who is reluctant. He wants to sell it to his son, but he's reluctant. Because his son is not capable.
Right.
He just thinks he's going to get it. And the company is watching this going,
correct.
This is a joke. He's going to destroy our company.
Correct.
But the person on the show doesn't know that it's fake. But I'm telling you, it's a show about succession planning.
Oh, interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
great.
when you got to cancel your 10:30 meeting that you have today.
Now, go watch it.
But I think it's on. I think it's Prime.
Okay.
But look it up. Just look up Jury Duty Presents Company Retreat. As a succession planner, you're going to absolutely love the show.
I'll send that to every prospect I have.
That's right. That's right. When you watch it, you're going to just die.
Sure.
You're going to die. And then there's a point in the show where a private equity group comes in to try to buy it.
Yes.
It's pretty. Which
is another one of those right. So independent third party buyer. ETAs, moment entrepreneurship through acquisition. There are lots of ex-IT people now floating around, right? Payouts, they've got their equity payout, those kind of things, and they are looking at businesses to buy. I talk to at least 2 to 3 a week, right? They're in the mode where they're looking for a business to buy that has good cash flow, and I don't have to work in all the time. We'll talk about that a different day, but so that's another. That's one of those options. The other is a strategic buyer. That could be your largest competitor or a competitor that is maybe they've expressed interest in the past. It was like, hey, if you ever sell, call me. Right? That's good. However, a lot of times what we warn owners of is don't get sucked into that machine without help, because unfortunately, sometimes that process is used to suck information out of you about your business, because they are your competitor. So you got to be really cautious. You do.
You do.
For 1,000 reasons, including your employees and all kinds of things, right? But then, private equity, and now there's family offices. There's kind of like these.
I'm trying to learn more about family offices. It's a little complex.
Yeah,
for me,
just think of it as a private equity firm.
Right.
Right. It's just it's not backed by
it's like a different way of governing, right?
Yeah, and it typically is a family or friends who have bolted their monies together.
Yep.
Sometimes it's their money versus investor money, and those are different because they have different needs and goals. And a pure private equity firm definitely has goals, right? I was not involved
Margins,
in the transaction.
profits.
Yes, profits, growth. And we'll talk about multiple plays if we got time. But private equity firms, pure private equity, typically is doing roll-ups as an example. If I buy 1 or 2 auto repair shops, auto body shops, anything like that, right? Plumbing businesses.
Yeah. Some specific.
If I have 2 or 3, they're worth X. Profitability times a multiple. If I have 75 of them, that multiple alone goes up, i.e. value of that entire enterprise goes up. Wow. Just the way the world works.
Yeah.
So that's what you see them doing is they, I'll use, local auto repair shop group. I guess I could say it because it's public, but Great Water Garage, right? They bought a lot of shops here in Indianapolis after kind of saturating Michigan. And they seem to be on a mode to get to, 75, 100 shops.
That's their goal.
That's their goal. And so the question back to legacy of the owner, obviously I have that conversation, and usually for a privately owned business, family business, that's like an anathema, right? It's like, we don't want to do that. What I tell them is I still want you to think of it as an option because it actually still may be the best option because you don't and haven't worked through the other options yet to know viability, people's goals, expectations, right? So the very thing you say you don't want to do because I want the business to have a legacy may actually be the answer because the other options aren't viable. Son or daughter can't buy it. They don't want to buy it. There's 3 kids and you're selling to 1 and the other 2 don't like it. And I mean, just all these things. And typically what we start recommending is if they have multiple children to really think of the transfer of money, not the transfer of the business. It's like giving 3 children your home. What good does that do? 3 families going to live in one home? Doesn't work that way. Business is an entity, and all of a sudden you have 3 children involved, and they're now, let's say, co-owners. What's the percentage split? How does that work? Who makes decisions? It just creates a whole cauldron of mess.
Makes me think of one of my all-time favorite shows from the 70s and 80s, Dallas.
Yes, it is. Oh, I mean, I'll use Pittman Farms. Pittman up here in Zionsville. When he passed away, my wife he was one of the surgeons my wife supported at the hospital as a nurse. When he passed away, and he had quite the wealth, he was partial inventor of the artificial heart. But he had multiple children. They fought for 15 years. 15 years in court.
15?
Yeah. And just in the last 5 years is when they finally settled.
Oh my gosh!
Right. So Now, that's probably a whole nother level of wealth.
That's an extreme as
but
well. Yeah.
It's the same thing. So we generally recommend, if you have multiple children, that you really consider passing wealth, not business. So, which then creates the opportunity to do a third-party sale.
Do you find that in your experience, what I want to get into is what the succession process looks like?
Yeah.
In your experience, do most of your clients come in at the right time, or do most of them come in late? Again, because there are assumptions being made. Hey, I want to move to Florida in 6 months.
Yeah.
That's a little tight. Right. So
that's part of the education.
Right. So succession planning, the more it's good to have ample time to prepare.
Sure.
So
we work with what we have.
Well, you work with what you have. Okay.
Now, we may push that timeline.
Yeah.
After many discussions.
Yeah.
Or they have certain goals, and if that's the goal,
okay,
they just have to be willing to know
they're still the client.
They're still the client.
You can only coach and educate.
That's correct.
Advise as much as you can.
But as an example, we won't take a business of size and try and sell it if we don't think it's sellable.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this is where the expectation, the owner thinks it's worth $10 million. Mm-hmm. The reality is the market says otherwise, and it's worth $6 million.
Oh.
But if they want it to go fast, and if it's really worth $6 million, it's possible to get 6, right? But it's not possible to get 10 out of a $6 million business.
And 10 could be possible, but we're going to need more time.
Correct. And you may need more time to do certain things to drive that value.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So ideally, if a succession process is under ideal timelines, whether that's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, what does that process look like? I believe you shared with me there were 5 steps.
Yeah. I mean,
you don't need to go into great detail with all of them, but just run me through what an ideal succession plan process looks like.
Sure. I mean, we want to know the value of the business today.
Okay.
We call it a benchmark, right?
That's the first thing.
It's just first step, because most owners, I'd say 80%, have no idea.
They really don't know what it's worth.
They really don't. They have something in their head.
Most business owners don't know what their business is worth.
No, and it's not beating them up. This is not that. But they make assumptions on assumptions. And
it's also personal. So they think most people are going to think that their business is worth more because of the sweat equity they put into it.
Yes, and unfortunately, this is one of these 2-befores across the head that we have to hit them with. Is the buyer honestly doesn't care, and it's so awful, right? And I've seen their faces. They're like, "What do you mean?" Right?
It's devastating.
It's devastating. What they care about is what happens after they buy it. They don't necessarily. Now, I'm not going to call. They're all not cold-hearted, scumbags, but they're buyers. Again, they're making a bigger bet than you ever did, despite the sweat and the tears and the pain and the lost time with kids and all that kind of stuff. Well, they're doing the exact same thing at a bigger number, and so you do have to take that into account, and it's an imbalance that has to be dealt with.
Okay,
but we want to know where they're at so that we know, one, is that number actually enough? And it may be fantastic, but typically it's not, right? So we want to know and this is where, we'll talk about assembling a team, but I like to get their other advisors, like a wealth advisor as an example. We want to know the value of their other assets, real estate, investments, those kind of things, and their business. Because that total number, everybody carries a number. There used to be AIG insurance that people carried around the numbers.
Oh,
right. Well, people do, owners do, and so the question is, what's that number? And we try and pull that out of them first, so they kind of don't know what we're doing. But we want to know if they're in the range of that number, right? Value Builder calls it the freedom point, right? It's just a matter of you may have already reached that. Because knowing whether you've reached it or not is really important, because as a business owner, if you've reached that number, whatever that number is that's going to get you to go to Tahiti or Florida or move to Iowa or whatever, if you're already there, everything after this is now risk. So imagine all the businesses in 2019 that could have sold and didn't.
They didn't.
And now 3 or 4 or 5 years later, they've dug out of that hole, right?
So they were stuck for a few years.
They're stuck. Because, all of a sudden your sales drop. You did nothing wrong, right? And this is where, the 3 Ds, right? Death, disability, and other things, right? There's just some things out of an owner's control. So we want to make sure they know exactly where they're at. So that's kind of step one.
Yeah.
Step 2 is leadership development, right? And understanding their bench strength. And this is back to succession plan. We want to know, what does your bench look like? What does your staff look like? What, where are they at on that matrix?
Mm-hmm.
And it will quickly become obvious where the gaps are when you lay it out on a board and really have the discussions. Because I had to go through this, again, in the corporate world. I had to argue with my peers about what I thought about my people. Well, I think about one thing, but Jim across the table says, I've dealt with your Jim, your supervisor. He's awful, right? I mean, because you don't know. You have a biased view. So, that was some of the worst meetings I ever had.
I bet.
But it really highlighted who.
Is that when you were at Rolls Royce?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Of all the things, I told it, there were good things and bad things. And at the time, it was painful because you're arguing with your peers about your person and then vice versa. Mm-hmm. But it truly, after a while, you kind of figured out that's what needed to happen. Mm-hmm. And it was good. And there were many, many examples of people, I call them diamonds in the rough, that popped out because I didn't see potential in certain people and vice versa. And I said, no, and I got one example, I don't want to use her name, but she literally was, we hired her right out of college, young, inexperienced, etc. But she just had a thing, right? She was just good.
Something special.
And we had her as a customer service rep. And she came into my office one day and it was kind of like, what do I need to do to, continue to advance? And I told her that you need to think about what you want to do every day, as an example. And I said, I want you to list 3 things, not the job. I want you to, what do you want to be doing? And she came back about a week later and said, I want to interface with our customers directly. I want to, in her case, it was marketing. She was a marketing grad. I want to have some marketing content, right, and some activity because I want to use that. And I forget what the third was. And literally the next week I sat in a staff meeting and literally somebody said, we really need somebody who's really good at marketing, that loves talking to customers, blah, right? It was just, and I was, when I was sitting with her telling her what's happening and tell her that's what happened. And she got the job and on she went. I mean, I was crying. I mean, it was like, holy cow. And that's what succession planning does.
So it was so surreal. It was just such a positive moment.
It was, and that's what stuck.
Almost like a perfect moment.
It was really awesome.
That's cool.
And so we want that but the flip side is there are people that don't perform and don't have potential and may not even want it. Some people don't want to advance.
It's true. It's
already, and that's okay. We call it, steady eddies.
Yeah.
If they're grinders and they just work and they love the work, but they never want to be the general manager, that's fine. You need those people, right? So we want to know that.
And of course, you were known as Great Job Bob, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. The other is what we call just the operation of the business.
Yeah.
Value Builder, we assess, as an example, what I call friction. Think of it as an engine. How frictionless or much friction is there to run the business?
Yeah.
Right? Every buyer is going to assess, what do I have to do if I buy this thing? What skills, what is manual in the day of AI right now, as an example? Are you still having Jim or Susie type, from one database to another, and your tech stack is just a total disaster? You're operating on a Wang computer, whatever, right? Do you even have processes at all? A lot of businesses under 5 million have 0. But every once in a while I run into a business that actually people know what they're supposed to do, and it's documented. There's an org chart and there's succession, right? It just creates this thing where me as a buyer, I don't have to now reinvent all of that or do it, because I may be integrating you into a business, and now that's a whole different problem, right? So we got that going on. So that's just operational friction, right? How much pain is there going to be? And then we got tax and legal structures, right? It's kind of technical, but it comes into play. Are you an S corp? Are you a C corp? Are you an LLC? Are there multiple owners? Are there partners? What's that operating agreement look like? Are there timings of people's exits and buyouts and blah, 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 blah? You got to deal with all that.
Are they an ESOP?
Well, yeah, and that's another option we didn't talk about, but which we'll talk about here in a second. And then the other is timelines, right? Is literally, when does all this need to happen? Back to your question.
Wow.
Is it 3 months or is it 3 years? I would rather them have 3 years runway. Right. I would rather, and that's where, from a value builder standpoint, we're going to look at their business. Every buyer is going to look at least at 3 years history, if not 5. And we call this the due diligence phase, and we try and put owners through due diligence now, so they know what it's going to be like at sale, at transaction. Okay. Because it is a proctology exam. It is. It's the rubber glove, right? And there's a great commercial on the radio that said, you just puckered up, right? And that's, but they don't think about it. But all of a sudden, a buyer shows up, and let's say you get to the LOI phase, right? Letter of intent. Well, they're going to come in and they're going to go through your books, your taxes, everything.
And they're allowed to.
And sometimes, if it's a big enough business, they'll do a quality of earnings, which is, I call it transaction level. They're going to make sure that you're not farting with your books. Yeah. And owners hate it, right? They're like, that's their life, right? Yeah. And there's entanglements.
There's that personal. It's personal again.
Correct. And there may be that lake house that you've put in the business, right? And those, owners do.
Well,
right?
and family business owners pride themselves on being noble,
correct,
ethical,
and
men of people of integrity,
and even generous,
values, trust. Yeah. So if someone comes in and is like, "Well, I got to double check it," it's like,
that's correct.
How dare you?
And this is where, at a transaction level, every business does this, have adjustments at the end of the year, right? Journal entries. December mileage, cars.
Right. Oh yeah.
What's this $30,000 here? I mean, I've had examples where they paid for someone's divorce lawyer, right? To avoid having them leave the business. Now that's generous. Not sure it's a valid business expense, right? But you could say it was a retention bonus. Okay. So that's a one-time thing, or is it not, right? I mean, so buyers will go to that level of detail. So that's kind of the next, and then, just the overall timeline. So.
Okay. By the way, just for accuracy purposes, the 5 Ds.
Yes.
I love the.
I got 3 of them, I think.
Yeah, you did. I think I learned these when I talked. I never really knew about the 5 Ds of business risk and exit planning, but I love them. It's, I don't love these happening, but I love the Ds. Death.
Yes.
Disability. Divorce.
Yes.
Disagreement.
Okay.
And distress.
Yes. Okay. Fair.
Which ones do you think are most prevalent? Probably the disagreement and distress.
Disagreement and distress.
Yep.
Yeah. Although I'll be honest, my wife and I talk about this all the time. People are dying earlier. That sounds awful. They are. We've got. I mean, I'm only 59 and a half, and I've got people in my circle that are gone. And
that's crazy, isn't it?
I'm not 75, right? Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it just happens. So, and it may not be the owner. It may be their family or their spouse. If there's an S in there, it'd be stroke, as an example. Yeah. I mean, it's just, so you got to deal with all that.
Yeah, some of the things I learned too as I was preparing for a conversation, just more health issues, but that comes under, I don't know if that comes under that, but you have health, burnout.
Yes.
Burnout's another one, and then just the market shift.
Yes.
Like, am I relevant anymore? Like,
That's correct. There is some of that happening, as you can imagine. AI is kind of changing the world.
Yep.
What I tell owners is, if you aren't investing in using it in a way versus just playing with it, you're already behind.
And what's scary too is, and I don't know if it is the market shift or not, but it might just be age. But one of the things that is happening, if you're looking at the market, there still are a lot of businesses, those older businesses where the baby boomers are getting ready to exit.
Yes.
There's like billions of dollars at stake.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot.
I mean,
silver tsunami is real because the statistics bear it out. The question is, are there actually more sellable businesses or just more businesses that can't sell? Mm-hmm. And that's what our fear is there's just more businesses that aren't sellable for a bunch of reasons. Right? Mm-hmm.
So ideally, so without knowing there's no way to go in and know how long those 5 steps are going to take.
No.
But ideally, one of the things I learned, and it's being affirmed through our conversation, is I'm learning that this is something that you do not want to wait for. And that's the mistake. No. That is the mistake that
it's never too early.
A lot of people do wait.
They do.
Again, because of those assumptions.
They put it off.
They either don't want to deal with it or they just assume, right? Okay.
It's very similar on your personal life. Nobody likes doing their will. Nobody likes funeral planning. Right. Nobody likes insurance.
It falls right in that whole, I'll deal with it later.
Yes.
I'll deal with it later.
Right.
And I do believe there's risk with that.
A lot of risk.
And the outcomes, I would think the longer you wait, the outcome might not be what you were hoping for.
Correct. And the simple example I use is typically people do have a 401k or an IRA or investments, right, of some kind. Literally, most people, if I ask you, what's in your 401k today, you know the number. So same for the business, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Right?
Wow.
But that same level of attention is not put on the business for whatever reason. I'm not sure why, right? Mainly because I think sometimes psychologically is they may not really want to know, right? Because they may really know down deep, but literally it's like pull out your phone. Oh, my 401k, here it is, right? Where's your business? No idea, right? So
how do you mitigate that? Like, how, if people don't know until they know, and then you add in the element of people waiting even after that. Like, ideally, when you look at your system, when you look at the process, ideally, what is a minimum amount of time that you would like to have?
Minimum, I would say at least a year, because transactions of any size, let's say $1 million plus, 2 to 5, 2 to 10, those are going to be a year-long process. At least.
And do you have some that have been longer, 2-3 years?
Well, that's a good question. I'm trying to think. The one example we talked about was, and I didn't help with the transaction, but helped him with the planning, I guess you'd call it. Again, in his case, was going to sell it to his general manager. They had agreed, planned from the very beginning. 7 years of planning. Of discussion.
Whoa. 7 years.
7 years. When you put the paperwork in front of them, and
they change their mind.
Real, they change their. He just said, "It scares me to death, and I'm not ready." Now, funny story is, eventually the business sold, not to the GM.
Oh my gosh!
But the GM then, about 2 years later, went and opened his own shop. Right, and it's fine, right? He's doing fine, right? So, but that again, it's that assumption. So for the owner, that was about a 2 to 3 year process to go from I'm ready to go, or I know I want to go, to it's done. And it was a good business, so it actually sold, and it sold at a good value. But it takes time. It's just the entanglements; they just do.
So I'll ask one more question about your role. So is your job to help the current owner get the outcome that he wants, or is your job to help the current owner get the outcome that he should have?
I would say get the outcome that's possible.
As possible.
Right. It may not be what they want.
So your job isn't to spend the next 2 or 3 years helping the company get the son or daughter ready. If they don't have the competence, if they don't have the potential, and they don't, it's not possible. Your job is to pull that Band-Aid off as quickly as possible.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because knowing that early provides them more options.
Yeah.
Having no options is bad. Right? Like any other transaction, if I have to sell my house next week, guess what? My options are limited, right? Buyers smell that, right? So you don't want to be in a position where you have limited options. It's just not healthy.
And that's why it's important to have that in step 2.
That's correct.
That's so important.
That's correct.
First, let's see if this is even sellable.
That's correct.
Let's see if the finances line up with what you believe.
And we do an initial assessment of sellability, and the average score across all Value Builder is typically 35 to 40 out of 100. Right? Not 85.
Yeah.
Or 90.
Yeah, those first 2 steps are really critical. Yeah. Really critical. Okay. And have you had clients where you started the process and then exited the process?
Not yet.
Good.
We're right at the cusp.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got 3 right now that are probably right at the edge of going ahead and make the decision. It's time.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Okay. That's really cool.
Yep.
Are there any? I love case studies. I love real world examples. As we think back, are there any other examples that you want to share that might be helpful in understanding the process or the realities or the challenges of it?
Oh, probably not in the time we've got.
That's fine. That's fine.
There are many.
Okay.
But we've talked through a couple.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's cool. All right. Well then, like I said, this has been. I tried to be prepared as much as I could. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from my first conversation with you. I learned a lot as I researched, and I'm learning a lot as we talk. This is really fun. And again, it's just that you're so much more than an advisor and a broker. There's so much more going on there.
Yeah, it's just complex. It's more complex than anybody thinks.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's get into some takeaways.
Okay.
So for those who are listening,
Yep.
So if someone listening has not started planning yet, what's that first step? I mean, aside from calling you.
Yeah, having a cup of coffee, right? You know this. But that first step is truly understanding where your business is, even at a basic level. If it's not a full valuation, at least an assessment of sellability. Start there. I call starting is important. So whatever that start is, I've got some that just let's do the valuation and even go further. I've got a 90-day package that is truly a deep dive pre-due diligence prep, right? And I've got several of those in play right now in work. And, it always uncovers stuff that they haven't thought of. And so, but if that's too much, okay, let's start with just a simple assessment. And we can provide all the links, in this podcast type of thing, later. But, just do something.
Yeah.
Right? Start having the conversation. You don't need to boil the ocean. You will find that it may be an ocean at some point, right? But just start now.
And is the first step calling you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a simple cup of coffee. I'm not, I'm probably the worst salesperson in the world, right? So it literally is a conversation.
Bob, you have me sold, man.
Right. Well, that's, I can't. You can't make an owner do something. They have to want to do it.
You can only show them,
and you can
reality.
just show them the reality.
Do you have people that work with you just on the valuation side? Like,
yeah, if it, I'll call it this.
I'm not necessarily ready to sell.
I do most of it, right? Because it's not complicated, but it is, right? So it's one of those. I use Value Builder tools to do that. I do some additional things on my own through ABB, even to provide them a bit of a complete picture.
Yeah.
Right. If it is, let's say they had multiple entities across states or something like that, which isn't typical, but if they do, then I will pull in. And this is where Bob Paden Group comes in. I have a lot of resources around me, through partners just like yourself, both in the financial world, insurance, wealth management, et cetera, that I will pull in and
CPAs
and create the team.
Yeah.
Right. And they may already have some of those. What I typically find is they're typically not.
Okay.
Right. So we will assemble that team to support them in understanding where they're at if it's that complex.
So you work with clients that they're not necessarily going to sell, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Or they don't think they will.
Yeah.
Until they decide they might.
They might.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What aside from not calling you, what's the biggest mistake business owners make when thinking about succession?
What's in their head is reality. It sounds brutal, but that's just what it is. They've thought about it a lot, which is good, but it's not documented and it's not been vetted, right? It hasn't been verified that that's even a possibility. And no one, honestly, and this is common in owners, no one's really challenged them. Who challenges an owner in a business?
Nobody.
Usually nobody.
Unless you give some individual the greatest permission to do so.
Correct. And that's where I get to come in as a total independent third party. And not that I don't care, but it's not my business. So I get to be fairly impartial.
Do you make that clear right from the beginning that
I'm not the owner. That's not my business.
Yeah.
Right?
And I care about you because you're my client, but I'm not. It's weird. It's like I'm going to have to maybe say things that are uncomfortable. Like I think entering into a relationship with someone who provides the solutions and that you do, they have to know going in that they are not always going to hear what they want to hear.
That's correct. I mean, it's maybe the best equivalent is either their tax guy or gal or their lawyer, right? There's certain things in the legal world that you would love to have happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Do you ever get resistance, pushback?
Oh, of course. That's okay.
Again, that's where that psychology comes in.
It is, but I don't mind that because in that back and forth.
It's not personal, right?
No. Well, it could be, but it's
not.
But
I mean, for you.
No.
Yeah.
But I want to see them succeed. What I don't want, and we've seen this happen, and I've got it happening right now with one particular prospective client, that they are going down a path that I know is not going to end well.
Oh wow, you know that already.
I already know it. Right? You can just watch. It's like watching a train wreck happen.
What step in the process are you with them?
Prospect. They're not my client.
Oh, prospect. You said?
Yeah, not my client.
Prospect. I'm so sorry.
And they're trying to do it themselves.
And
you just
so I'm sorry. What you're saying is that unless they work with you,
anyone, not even just not me. I don't want to.
No, what I mean is if they don't work with a professional,
correct,
they're in trouble.
They're setting themselves up for a big problem.
Could actually jeopardize the existence of the business.
Yes, absolutely.
Holy cow!
Right, or at a minimum, devalue it.
Do you feel it's necessary to even have honest conversations in those moments?
Yeah, sure.
Wow.
It's hard, but
Yeah.
what I tell prospects, people I'm talking to, is if everyone is telling you yes, something's wrong.
Yes.
It's
Right.
too complex, right? I mean, it just is. If they say, "Oh, we'll sell your business for $3 million," typically what we find in a broker world, they just want your listing, and I hate that. Everybody and nobody wants that to happen, but they do get paid to have a listing, typically, right? There's a commitment fee and those kind of things. And if your business lists for a year and nothing happens, they made their commitment fee. I don't want that. Nobody, ABB certainly doesn't want it. I certainly don't want it as myself. So.
Okay. Before we wrap up,
Yeah.
share one thing every business owner, we talked about the first step in the process, but what's one thing every business owner should do now to reduce risk with succession? So regardless of where they are in that process, what's something that you would recommend everybody do at any point to reduce the risk?
Assess their staff, their team, top to bottom. I mean, all the way down to the janitor, if you want to call it that, who doesn't really.
And what does that mean by assess?
Understanding, potential and performance, and it's. So
you're talking about step 3, sort of. Okay.
Yep, because it starts unlocking discussion.
Okay.
Especially if there's a child in the business, because you have to have who they have it with is a whole different issue, right? It could just be them as an owner in a room privately doing it, but they have to be honest with themselves of their child's capabilities, right? And performance and those kind of things. So, second is the value of the business. We just want that benchmark. Nobody wants to do it because it costs money. I get it. We try and make it as streamlined as possible to at least get you in the ballpark. But if you're a business of size and you don't know the value, that's a real risk. It really is, because you're flying blind.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So I actually had these in mind, and these have been confirmed. There were some core themes that came from this conversation.
Yes.
Most owners are unprepared.
Correct. They're busy.
Yep. Right. Or they're handling the process incorrectly. Succession is emotional, not just strategic.
Definitely.
Okay. The default assumption is breaking. Right? We talked about that.
Yes.
It's not necessarily going to be a son or a daughter.
Correct.
There are now more paths than ever.
Yes.
In terms of,
especially now.
Yeah, the GM, the internal employee, the external sale.
And if it's of size, we didn't talk about it, but ESOP is one, right?
Yep.
And there's a couple other things floating right now that are being tested. IRS is still trying to figure out what to do with them, but yeah.
Okay. And I think this is the most important thing. This is where I landed as I was even preparing. And again, I think you put a nice wrap and bow on it. Is value building and exit planning must be integrated.
They are. They're intrinsically linked. You can't do one without the other. I can't build value if I don't know the strength of my team, because if I'm a buyer, what am I assessing? I'm going to assess the strength of your team. And what do I have to do once I buy it? Who goes? Who stays? Who's sitting there in the corner doing nothing? I've just inherited the son or the daughter in the business that doesn't really work, or whatever, right? Or they're the star. Maybe they're it. They weren't able to own, but man, they're the rock star that's going to get me to whatever goal I've got as the buyer. Fantastic, right? There's a couple that I've got in my sphere that probably fit that category. They're not able to buy. They don't want to own, but man, are they willing to grind for somebody? And if it's not their family, right? So, yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Bob, this has been very informative, very insightful. I must applaud you. Succession planning, I'm sure it's exciting for you because you're in it, but it's not exactly a sexy topic.
It is not.
But I will tell you that you did a really good job of making this conversation very fun.
Good.
Did a great job of
it's a little better
bringing out the fun side of
a little
that,
better
of
than
succession
death and taxes.
planning. Yeah. And what I really appreciate is your time, and I really appreciate your expert perspective. So thank you for
Anytime.
that. And the thing that, I read the 5 core themes of this conversation, which you affirmed, but what I really took away from this is that, number one, any business owner, family business owner, any business owner should be listening to this. They should be having a conversation with you.
Sure.
And they need to be having those internal conversations sooner than later. Don't wait till it's too late.
Nope.
Do not wait till it's too late.
There's so much risk in it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Bob, for those who want to explore this process,
sure.
Where can they go to learn more about you and just learn more about the process? The Bob Paden group and thing. What's the best steps to take on that?
Sure. BobPaden.com is the starting point. That also gets you a free assessment of sellability.
Okay.
Right. Obviously, my LinkedIn. Probably LinkedIn is kind of what I would call my website.
Is it Bob Paden or Robert Paden on LinkedIn? It is Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
I finally changed it, I think.
Okay.
I finally hooked.
Okay.
And so, LinkedIn is definitely, you want to know my background and where I'm coming from. That's a great place to start. And then on the brokerage side, I'm on the ABB website, which will provide the link.
And ABB stands for what again?
Advanced Business Brokers.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So based out of Kalamazoo, but I'm their Central Indiana guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And just reach out. Typically, you can, if you get my email eventually, which you will, it'll have a link. You can book a time. Have a cup of coffee.
What is that first assessment? What does that first sit down look like? I'm not the don't run. I mean, as far as time,
it's a lot of questions. Probably.
Is it like an hour and a half, 2 hours?
No.
Okay.
If somebody does, if they just want to know who I am and should I even trust this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I start. I'm not selling in that first one.
For those of you listening, do not waste time asking Bob whether you should meet at his place or yours. Just ask him. Just tell him the nearest coffee shop.
That's correct.
He'll meet you. He'll be happy to meet you at a coffee shop.
And I know this sounds silly, but typically that works better because they don't want to be inside the business having this conversation.
Right. Exactly.
So,
even though you have the door closed, the walls, there's that, maybe someone's listening.
That's correct.
And what's funny, on a humorous side or interesting side is the first time I met you was at a coffee shop.
That's right. Panera Bread and Fisher's.
That's right.
It's been a while.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like Lisa knew that's where you should be.
That's right.
So I don't know. So Bob does most of his conversations at a coffee shop, which is awesome for all of us.
And I do have private office.
I know you do. So. I know. Is your private office in Zionsville?
Yeah, I've got one there, but I also one in Carmel.
In Carmel as well. Okay.
Even in Fisher's, I've got a place to
live. Do you?
Yeah, Adam's place. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're just looking for a place to go before your wife gets mad.
That's correct.
You got beds in you got beds in all 3 places.
Yeah. At least an office chair. So,
that's right. Yeah. All right. Well, again, Bob, thank you very much.
You bet.
And just a quick note before we end, Up in Your Family Business is sponsored and produced by Element 212, the marketing agency for family businesses. And to our listeners, if you found this episode to be valuable, please follow and share Up in Your Family Business with another owner or leader who could benefit from it. And again, reach out to Bob, check him out on LinkedIn, go to his website. He would love to talk with you. Until next time, may you, your family, your team, your customers, and your community be blessed.